Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Okay, so before this is your on the spot reporter, but I'm not necessarily on the spot. And I'm here with Model Railroad News editor, HO Collector Quarterly creator, and all-around good guy and huge Kansas City fan. Kansas City Chiefs. What is your favorite Kansas City team, Tony?
Oh, to be the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm not that. Baseball, I'm afraid I would side with the St. Louis Cardinals more.
Yeah, and you were born in?
Central Illinois. So, yeah, St. Louis was kind of the home team growing up. But, of course, football in St. Louis has always been, at least for, in my time, when I was a little kid, it was the St. Louis Cardinals. And then they went to Arizona. And then by the time the Rams got there, I think I'd already moved away from St. Louis. So, and it still always seemed like it was the Los Angeles Rams in St. Louis for some reason. So, yeah, football in St. Louis to me never was. But the Cardinals is tremendous. Cardinals is one of the all-time teams.
They are one of the all-time teams. They were like one of the history teams. They were Cleveland. However, I understand that you're not a huge football fan, and I understand football has had a love-hate relationship with St. Louis. But it was in St. Louis that the greatest show on turf was born, when Kurt Warner was the quarterback and they won 2 Super Bowls.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they called it the greatest show on turf.
That's some good marketing.
It was beautiful. And that was because Kurt Warner, who was packing groceries, but wanted to stay sharp, he was playing arena football. And, of course, arena football, compared to real football, is like the size of a dime compared to a dollar bill. So that he became a gunslinger, and they called it the greatest show on turf.
Wow.
But see, that's the greatest thing about the AML network, is that not only do you learn all of the latest model railroad news and have great model railroad discussions, but you could learn just about anything else on the AML network.
It really is. In fact, at the AML barbecue, I had Jordan Kramer was at a trivia night thing, and he told me, hey, I won a trivia question because they asked who was the red or blue network. And he said, oh, it was NBC. And he said he wouldn't have known it. Remember we talked about it?
Yeah.
So see, yeah, and I think he said he won $50 or something. So there you go. I mean, this is educational information that pays off.
And how much of that did he offer you?
See, I was not thinking as fast as, yeah.
So you brought the AML caddy to the AML picnic.
Oh, wasn't that nice? I mean, we really had a great time. That was it was very warm, but that's summertime in Illinois.
And the caddy seems to have the Cadillac Eldorado, which is the sweet. That's a great name for a car, the Cadillac Eldorado.
That's why Shane put on his spurs. He said,
"This car seemed like it was
he needs." Yeah,
it seemed like it was built on a Corvette frame. That was a low car.
It does sit low. Yeah, I have noticed that. I mean, it's wonderful to drive. In fact, I finally broke down on the way home at about Hannibal, Missouri, when we still had all of Missouri to cross, and I let Shane take over, and he drove across Missouri on the way back to Kansas City. And yeah, within about 5 minutes, he's like, oh, I wished I'd have bought this car when you were posting pictures of it last summer. It's like, it does drive nice. Yeah.
And I took that great picture of Shane taking a selfie in the parking lot.
I don't think I've seen that.
I posted it. I posted it somewhere, and I said I can't explain why, but this is Shane taking a selfie. I think I put that on the Model Railroad Modeler's Life page.
We have to look.
Yeah, we have our own page and everything. Let me just look. I'll double check that. A Modeler's Life podcast. There's a picture of Hard Part and Morgan Pavia. See, Morgan Pavia got new license plates.
I saw that. That is very snazzy.
I hope by now Morgan's posted a picture of them on his truck. Let me see. I'm scrolling. I feel very confident that I'm going to find this picture. I'm scrolling. Oh, there he is. Here it is. On July 15th at 1:54 p.m. I'm not sure how to explain it, but this is Shane the Young Gun Mason taking one last group selfie Sunday morning at the 3rd annual AML barbecue. and it's him lying on the ground, reaching under
Oh, yeah.
reaching under the AML caddy to get his phone, which had landed right in the middle of the ground after it came flying out of his selfie stick.
And that would take work. If I
Oh,
said to you, "Do you think you could throw your phone and get it to land under?" Like, I'll give you $10 if you can just toss your phone and get it to land in the center of the car, underneath. You would not be able to do that.
no. Somehow he was going to take a group selfie of you, me, David Start, David's brother, and Peter Borchertz, and was working on getting it in the clip, and it came flying out, took a massive bounce, went right smack under the middle of the caddy. What a guy. All right, so the reason we're here, this is the AML news. Is really what this is.
Indeed it is, because we just had one of the big events, as far as a show with new product announcements. Train Fest in November and then the National Train Show in July are some of the biggest. There are, as far as the quantity of stuff that we find out product-wise every year. And we just finished up the National Train Show in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yeah, and neither you nor I were able to attend.
No, we had the barbecue, which we have to watch.
Right,
I've had more people say, "Well, how did that get scheduled that way?"
Yeah.
Or you got to watch that next year. You always have these Monday morning quarterbacks that I've been told that a bunch of times. Oh, you got to check that next year. That doesn't happen. So.
Yeah, well, I believe it was the NMRA that screwed up.
Was it?
The AML barbecue's always been the second Saturday in July for years.
Well, the NTS show moves around sometimes because I think it tended to be closer to kind of that week after the 4th of July, but was early August in Kansas City, and then it seems like a year or two before either that Atlanta or one of those shows was a little different. And I haven't looked at the dates for St. Louis. I don't know when it lands for 2020.
Early July, I think it starts on July 12th. So the AML picnic is June 27th. Tomstock 2020 is June 27th in Robesonia, Pennsylvania, and then I believe the NMRA convention is July 12th. It starts on July 12th, if that's a Saturday, in St. Louis, Missouri.
The gateway to the West.
Gateway to the West and home to the one and only the Dude.
It is. Yes, it is.
I'm going to be paying. Oh, and which reminds me, the NMRA last year in Kansas City was very annoyed that we rented a bus.
You told me this,
Yeah, they're very, very annoyed about that. And fortunately for us, Kevin Hardpart Marks, who never takes a moment, there is no off position on the genius switch, is the way I describe Kevin. He came up with a brilliant idea for when we rent our bus next year in St. Louis. We're going to get two, and one of them will be a decoy.
Oh, that's right. He did say, a decoy bus.
Yeah. All right, where should we start? I'm scrolling through. So did Otto Vondrak take all these pictures that I see here from the train show?
I think he did some, but then also from Railroad Model Craftsman, Mr. Harry K. Wong was out in Salt Lake as well. Harry lives out in California in the Bay Area, and he was in Salt Lake too. And he covers news and product reviews for Railroad Model Craftsman magazine. So between the two of them, they did fantastic coverage of lots of new products.
I highly recommend that everybody go to the Model Railroad News Facebook page, which oddly enough is under Model Railroad News. And scroll down until you get to there's a million pictures here from there. So where would you like to start?
I've got notes on some of the stuff. I'm not sure. The pictures kind of go a little bit everywhere. So we'll let's talk about Athearn, naturally the Union Pacific Big Boy with the 4014 restored and back in service. I think that's the big thing right now is everybody's got to have a big boy. And Athearn already has one in HO and N scale, but they had an announcement for the NTS show of it returning, and I believe the HO model this time will get a smoke unit put in it for the first time. That I think it's always been compatible for that. But in addition to DCC and sound, it gets smoke, and the N scale will have DCC sound, but I don't think it gets smoke. And then also UP related, the George Bush 4141 and Spirit of Union Pacific, which they've done those before, but new versions are out. And then that Powered by Our People, that Union Pacific 1111, is announced by Athearn as well. So if you're a UP fan, there's so much happening right now in the both prototype world and the model world, and Athearn's got a number of those things.
Holy mackerel! I didn't that is. I wonder. Do you have any idea what the price of the big boy might be? Do they give any hints of that?
It's up on their website now. I think the big boy's in about the almost $700 range with everything. Yeah, that's the DCC sound, smoke. I think it's like maybe $679.
Wow,
is the retail on it?
Well, Rapido released their Royal Hudson, and they're around the 700, just under the $700 range.
And there's a beautiful and unique Canadian steam prototype as well that you probably would have never expected to see outside of brass. And yeah, Rapido's done some wonderful things lately, and that's a beauty.
Yeah, I've been chasing Jason Tron around with a microphone, trying to interview him, but it's kind of like one of those bad comedies. It's kind of like who's the guy that played the Pink Panther?
Peter Sellers.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bad Peter Sellers movie. Every time Jason sees me, he takes off in a different direction.
Really? You've interviewed him before, though, haven't you?
Never, ever has he said one single solitary word on a modeler's life.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, he's a great guy. I mean,
he is.
He ought to.
He's a very nice man.
I don't know what to tell you there.
Oh no, he's. I'm being silly. First time ever. Last year he made a great donation to my One More Year charity, and he's doing it again this year. So that's cool. So all right, what are we on to next?
How about, and this is, well, I say it's one of your favorite prototypes, but maybe it's the RS1 is your favorite Alco switcher prototype. But there's a new RS3 RSD45 switcher coming in Z scale.
Oh.
From American Z line.
All right. Is Z getting to be more popular all the time?
It's surprising. I think it does have, it's certainly a growing scale for sure. And yeah, this is their newest thing, and that American Z line certainly brings out a lot of stuff in Z, which is what 1/220th scale. And yeah, they showed test samples of a new plastic RS3 in Z. So if you've been holding out because you wanted a first generation Alco switcher, your wait is over and you can start laying Z scale track in the basement.
And is that half the size of N scale?
Well, N scale's 1/60th, so 220. I mean, getting there.
No, it's half the size. It's more than half the size of HO.
Right.
Wow. It's very small.
It's very small. Yeah, when you look at it, suddenly N scale seems much bigger.
Yeah.
And yet it's funny, like when N scale came out, they said it was too small to ever be a viable, there's no way. Yeah. And now here's all this stuff in Z. So it's incredible how that changes.
I think this hobby, the one thing I've been actually saying to people just recently, because we've been talking about something, I mean, how everybody complains nothing works nowadays. But I said, I think as many things work as they used to work. It's just that now that there's so many products, a lot more of them don't work. Not in model railroading, but just in general. Like my barbecue, my barbecue is acting up, so that's how I got into that. So, and I always mention you. I said, well, my friend Tony Cook, editor of Model Railroad News, says he couldn't have had this magazine 40 years ago because there was like 3 products a year.
Oh yeah.
And now, just constant. I am convinced this hobby is like way bigger than anybody realizes.
I mean, yeah, stuff continuous. In scale, Broadway Limited showed they had test decorated shells for their coming SD70 Ace diesel, and that's in. And then they've also shown an early sample of an NW2 SW7 switcher that will come to in scale, and it'll have their Paragon 3 sound. So for a small EMD switcher like that, that'll certainly be something I know a lot of in-scale guys will be interested in. And both of those, the 70 Ace is actually delivering this summer. The NW2 SW7 in-scale switcher should get an announcement, I would guess, in the next month or two. But they did show a sample of it at the show recently.
Oh, okay. Wow. It's now I'm scrolling through the Model Railroad News Facebook pages here, and I'm thinking I've already got a million questions. So, but all right, keep going.
I've got a car that I know you're going to need to get pre-ordered.
All right.
Bachman announced it. It's coming in November. A poultry transport car.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, see-through, and it's 5 decks of a chicken hauling 40-foot boxcar. I think that, yeah, it'll be in 4 different road names, all poultry related, and definitely should be something to see. They didn't have samples of it yet. They just have drawings on that. And a more serious thing, Bachman is taking their old 40-foot high cube boxcar that always had an insulated plug door that would favor like a Union Pacific home-built car, and they've announced a revised version that'll have a sliding door, which makes it closer to the Pullman Standard prototype, and they're going to offer that in Burlington, Northern Santa Fe, and Rio Grande. So that revised tooling baby high cube comes out in HO next year. They're adding a new 72-foot smooth side baggage car to the recent streamlined HO passenger cars that they've been doing in the last couple years. And the brand new Simmons Charger has got an official announcement now. It'll have DCC with train control systems wow sound installed. And there's 4 of those, Amtrak Midwest in 2 road numbers. Pacific Surfliner and Amtrak Cascades will be the road names for it. And it should really be loaded with stuff. It's got the Keep Alive device so it can make it over dirty track and through connections. Voice-guided audio assist programming, which is a train control systems thing that'll help you program stuff that you can actually talk with the decoder. And
Wow.
then they're also promising those Simmons Chargers have got that really interesting light package on their face. And they have almost like a bus destination board that's between the headlights underneath the windshield.
Right.
And I do see mention of roof-mounted strobe lights, marker lights, flashing ditch lights, interior corridor work lights. So I'm kind of eager to see how they handle that front end board as well on those. That should be a very interesting piece. And that's 2020 delivery from Bachman, and that's in HO only right now.
Holy mackerel! I don't even know where to begin. That just sounds very, very cool.
That's one I'm sure that Shane will be with. He loves all the electronic stuff, so I'm guessing that's a model that he'll be excited to see when it comes in. You know what's an interesting one, and I get lured into this thought a lot, and I do collect HON 30, the O gauge narrow gauge that I like collecting in. You know, it runs on HO track. It's popular. You know, White River does the ON 30 annual every year, and it's really O narrow was always a popular thing. So
Yes.
was SN3.
Yep.
But this ON 30 really has developed a lot. I think it's maybe the early mid 90s when Bachman Spectrum kind of takes that on, doing ready to roll items. But one of the things that they just announced here is a Baldwin built 262 tank locomotive, and it's a trench steam engine that dates to World War I. And the information on it is that they quickly built narrow gauge railroads to bring food, ammunition, and construction materials to the entrenched troops in France on the Western Front in World War I. And these little 262 Baldwins were the locomotives that ran these little narrow gauge railroads that took war supplies to the front. After the war, they were left and they became agricultural railroads for France. But Bachman is doing this ON 30 model, and it will have Chuffinity technology.
Chuffinity?
Yes, Chuffinity. And again, this is train control wow system. And it says the Chuffinity it will, when it's coupled up, it will, I guess, an intelligent load and grade sensing. So as it's working up a grade, or when it's got something to tell that it's got a drag on the locomotive. So the chuffs will vary in character, volume, and intensity to follow whether or not it's pulling a heavy train or going up a grade, which I'm eager to see how it does it. The other thing, too, for the trench warfare specific sounds, in addition to the steam sounds, it will also do battleground sounds, which I assume would be, bombs going off, gunfire, but tell me you don't need one of those now that you've heard this.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture of it now on the Model Railroad News Facebook page. It's a fantastic looking model, but now that you tell me it has Chuffinity.
I mean, come on. You got to have a model with Chuffinity.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is a trademark term, by the way, of train control systems.
Is it really?
That's what it says on the Bachmann thing. Yeah, Chuffinity. It's got the little TM. So, I mean, if you would have come up with Chuffinity, don't tell me you wouldn't have trademarked that.
Oh, absolutely.
See, there you go.
It's kind of like Crunchy the sock.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Kevin Marks.
Oh. Hey, and have you tried your socks on yet? And for those that don't know, we all got Harley Davidson socks from Kevin. And I tried mine the other day, and they do feel spectacular.
You know, do you remember on the old Andy Griffith show, there was the guy that always was throwing the rocks?
No.
Yeah, there was a guy who was, I don't know, he came down from the hills, and he was a crazy hill mountain man, and he'd come down and he'd throw rocks at all the windows in town, and then they'd have to Ernest T. something or other.
Huh. Yeah, okay, and then Andy'd have to kind of talk him down.
Yeah. But compared to Kevin Marks, I think that's what I would look like. Because I tried on these socks, and they were fabulous. The socks he handed out to everybody at the AML picnic, and they were fabulous. The first time I tried them on, they came up to up my calf, near the top of my calf, and I'm thinking, I've never owned socks like this in my life. And I thought, and I put them on, and I thought, man, I look pretty good in these.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're stylish too.
They are stylish. They're everything else, but no matter Ernest T. Tubbs, I think is what his name was, and no matter what no matter how well you dressed me, no matter what you did to me, I think beside Kevin Hardpart Marks, I'd always look like Ernest T. Tubbs. Chuffinity.
I mean, I got to have one just so I can experience the battleground sounds and know that I'm playing this in Chuffinity.
Yeah. That sounds fantastic.
It does.
Chufftastic.
Chufftastic. There, trademark that. Trademark that one. Apply for that. Then in narrow gauge HO, Blackstone has a new run of the 30-foot Rio Grande refrigerator cars, but unfortunately no update on that K36 steam engine that we've all been hoping and waiting for a number of years. That I wish they'd get to that. I know they've had some delays in production, people changes over the years, but I'd love to see that get done. But I do know there's a new group of the little 30-foot yellow Rio Grande reefers coming in HON3.
And this is from, again?
Blackstone model. Yeah.
And how have they, Ernest T. Bass?
Is that his name?
Ernest T. Bass.
I see I'm going to have to look this up now. I think I have the Andy Griffith Show on Hulu or Netflix or Amazon Prime. I'm going to have to look up these episodes.
Yeah, and he was played by Howard Morris, and his significant other was Charlene Darling. But anyways, back to Blackstone. So has their production slowed down? Because I mean, they were the thing when they first came out.
I don't know all the particulars on that. I do think they had someone that retired or something that was in the production end of things, and I think that kind of caused a bit of a snag. But that K36, they did show like a 3D printed sample of maybe the boiler or the tender. Not this, it may have been at this year's show, but at least maybe Train Fest or the national show a year or so back. And so I'd hope maybe it was progressing along, but I don't have any update news there on it. But this refrigerator car, a new run of those at least will be out. Those are fantastic little models, those HON3 things. It's another one that I can get a look at those and decide that I've got to do HO narrow gauge.
Oh yeah, what Blackstone has produced is spectacular.
Just spectacular, yeah.
Unbelievable. All right, yep, carry on.
Exact Rail, more modern stuff. That Berwick 7440 appliance boxcar. That's a big 60-foot single door, and it dates to the early 1970s is when it came out. So it's got a lot of neat road names: Penn Central, Illinois Central Gulf, Rock Island. That they had those out. And if you're at the Salt Lake show, you got to see that it wasn't avocado green, but it was a classic 1970s like yellow beige appliance color, and they actually had a stove sitting out there because they used that like in their ads in Model Railroad News, showed the oven door open with like a cookie sheet and these like, I guess freshly baked Berwick boxcars out of the oven. So they had the ad model oven was at the Salt Lake booth for Exact Rail with the Berwicks. And those are fantastic cars. Those will be on the cover of November's Model Railroad News. And then they showed new Pullman Standard 5277s. That's not an all-new boxcar, but a new run of those in H&N scale. That's a rib side 50-foot, I believe it's a sliding door boxcar, are coming from Exact Rail. That was Exact Rail's backyard. Being in Salt Lake, because they're just there in Orem, Utah, which is just south of Salt Lake.
And they have their fantastic online trainlife.com, and now they have an actual brick and mortar store, and it's all done by our good friend Chris Brimley, who's the vice president of Exact Rail, and a fun guy to be around. And here's one of the boxcars I'm looking at is the Mississippian Railway. That's a beautiful car.
Oh, the new 5277s?
Yeah.
That, and the train, I think it's a Train Life store, which I think it's in Orem. You can look online at trainlife.com and get details if you're in the area. It's got the Paley Soberg model railroads in there. Yeah.
And they did Chris did and his crew did a fantastic job of the benchwork they built to put the layout on. Looks like railroad bridge trestles, trestle bents.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that.
Oh, fabulous job they've done on that. Way to go, Chris.
It's in the corner of the store, and if you want to see pictures, either Model Railroad News' Facebook or Railroad Model Craftsman's Facebook, I think Otto was there one of the days around the show, and he took pictures of the shop and the layout so you can get a look at what it looks like. But what a neat thing. And I've asked before, because in that area, you got to figure that, Donnie and Marie and the rest of the Osmonds come in for their train supplies. And, I can't get anybody from Exact Rail, and I've asked Chris Brimley directly. I want to know what scale do you think Marie Osmond would work in? Would she be, O, G, HO?
Absolutely. I never you know what? I think Brimley's holding out on us because
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like he's probably, you know what? He's probably been over to their place. He's probably been over to Donnie's place in an op session.
Oh yeah.
And he's keeping it for himself because he doesn't want to share. He doesn't want them doing a number. And how great would it be to go over to Donnie and Marie's place and have them do, one of their, what were they, Puppy Love or something? And they called it Puppy Love or something.
Oh, that was one of Donnie's big ones before. But, they had that show from the mid-'70s to the late '70s on ABC, and they had, the ice capades or ice lollies. So you got to figure that big, and they built all that in Utah. The Osmonds shot that show out there. It wasn't shot in California. So I assume they've turned that Osmond studio into a massive model railroad. And yet Chris Brimley will not come clean with me. I ask him about it, and he just kind of gives me that smile and kind of shrug. So I'm going to have to go out there, and I'm just going to hang out around that Train Life store till I see Donnie and or Marie, coming in to get like a decoder or some, a bright boy to clean the rails. And then I'll just follow them back to wherever this is and see this fabled Osmond layout. And I'm sure they got a home road. It's probably like, the Osmond Pacific or something. Yeah.
You know what? I really blew it because in February I was at the Flamingo, which is where Donnie and Marie have a regular show at the Flamingo. They're right on the side of the Flamingo is Donnie and Marie. And I bet you I could have easily gone to the security and said, I know Chris Brimley.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And got backstage and probably had a personal audience with Donnie and Marie.
I would agree because, a lot of these rock and rollers, they are model railroaders. And I think, the other one I'm thinking of, Mr. Rod Stewart. So For sure. You can't tell me all those Osmond brothers never had a train set.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Come on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right.
But that's I'm still investigating that one, and I'll get to the bottom of it for the AML network. Just I need more time.
Yeah. All right.
More big boys. The classic River Rossi HO scale big boy comes back from Hornby America. It's going to be in a special package with, I think it gets a die-cast metal, like the UP shield with the 4014 number on it, that you get it's got a couple of extra little special things as like a collector release, and that will be out. I think it may be shipping now, because I had gotten information from them recently on a sample coming our way for review at Model Railroad News. So the new run of River Rossi HO Big Boys will be out before we know it. So there's another big boy. Lionel just showed their 2019 Volume 2 catalog, and you guessed it, they'll have an O gauge big boy, and they're also doing the full George Bush funeral train, complete with with the baggage car, with the open doors, with the American flag draped, casket, everything, the right locomotives for it, the George Bush 4141, all that's going to be done in O. And Lionel's new catalog, as was promised to me earlier this year, is loaded with their new HO, including two new train sets, in addition to the Berkshire passenger sets they had last year. There's a new nickel plate set coming out with the Berkshire and freight cars, and there's another set with steam locomotive and an Army medical hospital train.
Wow.
So it's like three little Harriman cars with the white square red cross on them, and it's like a World War II hospital train. And then they've got a whole group of freight cars, buildings, more of their Magnalock track for HO. You can go to lionel.com and look for their 2019 Volume 2 catalog. Or actually, if you go to lionel.com, you'll see in their main product dropdown, HO products is, I think, the first thing right now on the website, top left. And you can click and see all the HO items that I assume, I don't see them on their shipping schedule yet, but my guess is that some of that is destined to be in stores prior to the end of this year.
Fantastic. And have you seen any of this Lionel HO stuff in person?
I've got the Berkshire set that they did with the Polar Express. Maybe that's now 2 to 3 years ago. And that Berkshire is coming back for like that hospital set and the nickel plate set. The rolling stock is a combination of older toolings that they've licensed for use, but they're doing metal wheels for them, metal knuckle couplers. It should be neat stuff. And the collector in me is already committed to buying. I got to have one of everything. So yeah, I'm looking at taking out a second mortgage to be able to keep up with what'll now be my Lionel HO collecting.
Now, what's the quality like? Do you know?
Well, as I say, it's interesting that they're, the cars are all with metal wheels, metal knuckle couplers. That Magnalock road bed is a typical road bed track, but it has no connectors. It snaps together magnetically.
Right.
It's well done stuff. The nickel plate set, I think, retails for under $350 and comes with like 6 freight cars. So, again, it's a nice piece. And that Berkshire, it's made to look like a toy, the tooling, but the mechanism underneath it, is comparable to anything high quality steam. So $350 for that set with that as its power is that'd be a great set for a kid. And me too.
Yeah. And it would be great if the mechanism is good and it runs well. You could be dragging all kinds of people, all kinds of youngsters into the hobby with that thing.
It's sound equipped too. It's sound and DCC, and it uses Lionel's new Bluetooth, so you can use a smartphone to control it as well.
Wow.
Isn't that neat stuff?
It is neat stuff.
But more stuff. I'm gonna have to add a wing, I think, because I've got Lionel HO around here from the 60s and 70s, but now I'm gonna have to have a 21st century Lionel wing.
Yeah, you're gonna have to add a second wing to the whole.
I'm afraid so.
Yeah, what else? Definitely. What else can you do?
No, you can't. That's it. I don't know where else to put the stuff. Yeah. Speaking of narrow gauge, there's even more narrow gauge news. Katie has announced an HON3 metal coupler, which was really needed for HO because I think the Blackstone cars, they've been using, I think it's the micro trains, maybe number 1015, that kind of claw coupler.
Yeah.
And this Katie has got a very nice looking, it's a metal knuckle along the lines of what they do in other scales. So definitely something that's been needed for narrow gauge. There's a new HON3 metal knuckle coupler from Katie, and I think that information is on their website. If not, we've got a video on the Model Railroad News Facebook page that'll show that to you.
I think I just passed that video. I think I saw. There it is. There it is. There's the video. It says Sam Clark of KD Quality Products introduces their all-new number 705 coupler for HON3 modelers at the 2019 National Convention here in Salt Lake City, Utah. So it is. It's on the Facebook, the Model Railroad News Facebook page. They haven't brought out a ton of new products, have they? Over the last few years.
Katie, I'm trying to think. There's not been any new freight cars. Well, no, there has been. There's a new version of PS1 40-foot boxcar, a different tooling from that first 40-foot boxcar. Dates to, I think, 1996 was its introduction, and they just did a different version. I think it's a 1947 PS1 came out recently. So there's that, and then the modernized 40-foot boxcar. They've been doing a number of things, new road names for it. So they kind of have been too.
Yeah. Cool. All right. What's next?
More containers and for N-scale. If you're an N-scale modeler and you need containers, you're not looking hard enough. I mean, Athearn is in the process of doing all their HO containers also over into N-scale. In fact, they just announced a new, believe it was a 40-foot smooth side that'll be in September's Model Railroad News. And then Jacksonville Terminal, and he does a ton of great containers. He's announced those tank containers. Those are the ones that are kind of the frame with the round cylinder.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely needed there. He's doing those. And then he has no less than 6 different styles of standard height 40-foot containers coming for N-scale. And he goes to the extent you see in road specific for like diesels, this guy does on containers, to where he does correct door handles, and this is an N-scale. I mean, these containers are fantastic, and he's got his magnetic stacking system, for them to stack up. That's Jacksonville Terminal Company, and you can find out. I believe we've got pictures of that new tank container on our Facebook pages. He'd be a great guy. Have you ever talked to him?
No, and actually, I've been starting to think about that because I'm looking at the cylinder containers now, the tank containers, and I mean they're fantastic. The work he's doing is fantastic.
Oh, it is. And I mean, it's crazy. These, like this 40-foot doing 6 different styles with the correct kind of doors, ends, the stuff he's doing on containers is getting into minutia that is just amazing on these models. And they're fantastic looking. They come assembled. They've got the magnets inside to stack. The decoration on them is just top notch. I mean, he does great stuff. He's somebody that definitely, and he's not been in business all that long. That we ought to talk to him about how he got into business and everything.
Yeah, he'd be a great interview. So we'll slot him in at 1,782.
There you go. I think it's Stan Brooks is the guy's name. So yeah.
All right, Stan, we're coming your way, buddy.
We're coming your way. And speaking of new people in the hobby, did you see that Scale Trains announced Ken Wagstaff as their new brand marketeer and Drayton Blackgrove as their social media marketeer? So 2 new people at Scale Trains, which of course you were just there, in May?
Yes. Yep. End of May was for the Hiawassee River Railroad excursion, which Shane Wilson was very invited me. And as an aside, I did quite a few interviews that day, and I refused to listen to them because my voice, it was right in the middle of some sort of something. And
you had a cold that week, as I remember. I talked to you when you were driving down there, and you sounded terrible.
Well, and it was the first cold I'd had in 4.5 years because of the medicine that they'd put me on and I was like infallible. And then I had a room where there was had been used as a smoker's room, and by the time I got to the day, I could barely talk. And then I started listening to them just a couple of days ago, and because of these new microphones I got, they actually turned out pretty good. So I guess I better start broadcasting them.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. But there's those 2 new folks at Scale Trains, and they showed. And how many models? Now this would be HO and N. How many models do you think in the handful of years since Scale Trains has been in business? This new coil car they announced is their 10th, 20th, 5th. How many models do you think they've done?
I sat right beside Shane Wilson, and I asked him, and he. And I forget, but it was like a number like 30 something.
42nd.
Holy mackerel!
I had not realized that. But yes, it's a Thrall Trinity, so it's a modern coil car. This is the one's kind of the single piece hood, and they will do different prototype correct hoods for the coil car, and it'll have a load inside it, and it's also got the wood plank kind of V-shaped thing that the round coil load sits in. But yeah, Shane Wilson's announcement on that is their 42nd all new model announcement. Isn't
Wow.
that incredible?
And the coil car is fantastic. I mean, the work they've done on this thing
Oh, it
is
looks great.
unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. It looks great. They've also got a second run of their HO tunnel motors, which is on the cover of, I think, the July model. Railroad News has the Rio Grande featured. And then they've announced the C40-9, which is a regular cab of their big GE that they did recently. They did that C39 in HO, and then they've got Dash 9s coming out, but they've got a C40-9 Norfolk Southern coming. And the other thing I saw at their booth at Salt Lake, and I hate to get into unfriendly things here, but I'm upset with you, and I guess I'm upset with Shane Mason a bit too. They had all these red scale trains,
Yeah,
plastic tumblers out.
yeah, I saw that. I didn't remember seeing them, and I didn't. I don't.
Oh,
I never saw one of those when I was there.
oh, okay, all right. Because Shane said they had them in Tennessee,
They
and you know,
did.
being the collector that I am, I'm like, oh, I got to have one of those scale trains cups.
I would have
And
been. I would have been snagging those by the dozen.
that's what I thought. And he said, oh, yeah, they had those in Tennessee. And I'm thinking, oh, that's a big mark against you that you didn't get me a scale trains cup. And then, yeah, they had them in Salt Lake. So we'll see if Otto or Harry got me one. It's not shown up in the mail yet. So at this point, I don't have a scale trains cup to drink out of. But
And I hate to. I know. I know I'm not as up on model railroading news as you are. I try to, but here at the old AML studios in Busted Knuckle, Kentucky, we're so busy with interviews. Sometimes I fall behind on the news, so I'm confused now because I had thought that former Railroad Model Craftsman editor Stephen Priest was in charge of marketing at ScaleTrains.com.
no, that changed recently. Yeah, and this new Ken Wagstaff is their brand marketeer,
Right?
and then social media marketeer. Marketer or marketeer? Marketeer sounds like you should have a hat with the two Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
So I guess it's marketer.
Right.
Brand marketer is Ken Wagstaff, and then Drayton Blackgrove is the social media marketer. And one of those guys, I think it was Shane Mason, was telling me do you know either one? One of them had a video or a YouTube thing or something, but I was not familiar, and nor have I haven't met him yet.
No, I haven't met him yet either. I guess I've just fallen behind on news. It's hard to keep up with all the comings and goings there at ScaleTrains.com.
There's always a lot going on in the hobby. Yeah, it's been an exciting year of lots of things, both products and people, and whatever.
Well, let me tell you, Shane. Before you go on, Shane Wilson was incredibly hospitable and was one of the best times I ever had. So thank you very much, Shane Wilson.
He is a great guy. Boy, and I know Mike Hopkins and Paul Ellis, that the Scale Trains folks are really good folks.
Yeah, they are. They're all very friendly and all very accommodating, always anxious to answer questions. So don't stand outside the ScaleTrains.com booth. Walk up and ask a question because they love to interact with the people.
And get one of those red cups. I guess I'll shoot for, well, I don't, maybe they'll be at where Shane Mason and I are going to the St. Louis RPM. And we'll have to do a podcast on that afterwards.
Yeah.
But maybe Scale Trains will be there. So, yes, I'm in search of my red collector cup.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Walthers, our good friends up in Milwaukee, are bringing back their steel series. You remember the big blast furnace?
Yes.
And all of that equipment is coming back. The black blast furnace, the rolling mill, the coke oven, even the metal bottle car that they did and the slag car, they're doing those. They're also doing an updated version of their cushion coil car. Now, theirs is an Evans prototype 50-foot, and it in the past has had angled and like the straight side hoods. It has the two hoods versus the one hood on like the new Scale Trains model. They're doing a new glass, like fiberglass style rounded hood for this new version. It'll be a Walthers proto release. So the Evans coil car comes back with enhancements, the two hoods from the past return, as well as a new like glass fiber design hood to go with the steel industry. They're also announcing a new HO mainline diesel switcher. This is going to be an EMD NW2 Phase 5 switcher. So our early EMD, it would be the later phase of that NW2 before they went over to the SW7 series. So about 1950 is its prototype.
Yes.
And they're doing that with sound and non-sound. That's in the main line. They're kind of budget priced in between proto and their train line. The sound versions are under $200 with DCC and ESU sound, and then the standard DC is $139.98. And so that'll be an all-new diesel coming from them next year, but actually June of 2021.
And I'm looking at the road names available on Elgin, Joliet, and Eastern, Indiana Harbor Belt, Union Railroad, Wisconsin Central. Hello, Mike the Spoon Ostertag, our buddy Spoon, who worked on Wisconsin Central. Unlettered, painted, unlettered in yellow, painted and unlettered and blue and yellow. That's kind of a neat idea.
That's a great idea, yeah.
Painted and unlettered. That's a very good idea.
I mean, those for, whether they're working in industry or a grain elevator or even for your home road, that certainly gets a project along to be able to buy them, painted like that and ready to decal.
Yeah, that's actually a really fun idea. And then they're even going to come in undecorated, which is I think as hard as that is for the industry to do, I think undecorated always has a place.
It does, and I've always been told that's the very vocal group. Why don't you do more undecorated? Why couldn't I get this in undecorated? But then the flip side of that, I've heard a lot of manufacturers complain when they have done them that, yeah, there's a good chunk of sales, but then that's it, that they're left with a lot of them. So it's a tough decision at times that, yeah, there's a market for it, but it's not as big as you might think. As a collector, I like to have undecorated samples because it's a great way to really get a look at the tooling. Without any paint or decoration on it,
yeah.
you really get an idea of the model. So if you looked around my shelves, you'd find a lot of things that are undecorated, and they're bought for that very reason. Is I want to see the complete model without anything done to it paint wise that'll obscure some of the detail. And a lot of the modern things, it's interesting to look at and see what's metal, what's brass, what's plastic, that once it's painted, you think, well, is that horn, is that styrene or is that a brass detail? And then on deck, you get to see all that and go, oh, I didn't realize that's, etched metal in that place, that I thought it was, molded plastic. So that it's interesting to have on decks just for that purpose.
Now let me ask. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Let me ask you a question that I bet you a lot of our fans out there are listening. Do you request models in it one way or another, or do they just arrive at your doorstep to be reviewed?
It depends on the manufacturer, and it depends on the availability. If something obviously is hit pre-orders to where there's nothing available, to share for a review sample, we don't. So it's kind of hit and miss depending on what they have and what we're looking at trying to do. Model Railroad News, we've done a number of themed issues recently, whether it's Penske or Santa Fe and that kind of thing. So we tend to look for models that'll fit into some of those issues, and that can be a bit of a challenge. So you never know, that what you'll end up getting.
Okay, I like the themed issues, actually. I know that's a bit more work for you, but I actually quite enjoy those.
I think they've been good. We've had some really nice feedback on those. And coming up this fall, we've got Santa Fe will be September, Gulf Mobile in Ohio is October, and then we'll have big boxcars, 60-foot boxcars in November.
Gulf Mobile and what is it? Gulf Mobile and
Ohio, GM&O.
Yeah, you're going to do a themed issue on that?
Yes, we are.
That's going to be cool.
Yeah, there's new Athearn Genesis F units coming out, and we got early access to those from our buddy Chris at Athearn. So it'll be on the cover of, it'll be October's issue out in early September, about the time those models come out in stores. And then White River has a new hardcover GM&O book that's got history and motive power rosters and train information coming out as well this fall.
Another one of those fabulous White River Productions books that are always fun to have. I had a question. Oh yeah, and you got the from Chris Palomares. He taught me how to say his name. Chris Palomar. It's Mar, as in the planet.
Mar. Yes.
Chris Palomares.
I ran into him I didn't run into him. I didn't have to call State Farm, but I saw him at Spring Creek out in Deschler, Nebraska.
Oh, yeah. Let's save a couple of minutes at the end for you to give everybody a report on that. Okay.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that yet either.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the information I had, other than my usual disappointment when I get to that last aisle of every show, and there still is no Tyco booth. And that once again, Tyco is not back in the hobby, and there's no brown boxes of Alco Centuries, or there's always that moment of disappointment. And once again, yes, I always hold out that hope, but sorry, folks, no Tyco at the National Train Show in Salt Lake.
Oh my goodness. Can I run through a few of these pictures here?
Oh, sure. Are you on Facebook? I'll try to get synced up.
All right. I'm on. I scrolled all the way just to the photo just before there's a picture of the actual the National Train Show, and then you go to the next one. It's Atlas, and it's
Model Railroad News' Facebook.
Yep, absolutely. Is there any other one?
I didn't know. I wasn't sure if you were looking at Modeler's Life or where we were. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so on the Atlas HO scale from Atlas, they have a tank car. Beautiful. It's a beautiful covered hopper. Beautiful covered hopper. It's the 3230 PD covered hopper. I guess this.
Oh, that's new tooling. Yeah, that's a new piece that's coming out. I think that's maybe both HO and N.
Wow, that's a pretty spectacular looking model.
Did you see those O-scale 50-foot plug doors? Yes. And that Santa Fe plug door will be in our Santa Fe issue for September, and what a neat model that is.
And then, of course, we're looking at the Walthers, and we've seen that stuff. And then there's the video from KD, and then there's rail, exact rail. Let me see here. Oh, and then there's scaled trains and all those red cups behind the coil car.
Oh yeah, yep.
These from Athearn, these UP units and the George Bush unit, they're just absolutely spectacular.
It really is. I can't remember what we were reviewing. Shane Mason reviewed Bachman's Dash 840, and it's in regular UP paint. Now he reviewed a Norfolk Southern and a Santa Fe, but as we listed the other road names at the end of his review, he made that comment that it's just regular, delivered without the zigzag stripe, without the American flag, no wing shield, but it is very much correct. But it just seems so, laid back compared to the look of UP today. I mean, boy, if you're a UP fan, considering it's never changed its paint scheme, it still is an all-time classic, even with all the different heritage type units that are out there today. The regular UP paint is neat. Although I think I saw reference that the flag on the long hood and the Building America slogan, it may be going away, and they may be going back to just the red Union Pacific on the long hood.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's changing.
I think they're making a mistake. I like the flag, but you're right. It's a timeless paint scheme. Timeless. And then above that is Jackson Terminal is also introducing a bunch of flatbed trailers. Beautiful stuff they're doing. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And then I wanted to go to ESU. Look at all this stuff that ESU has coming out. And also, where am I going? There's so much stuff on here. I can't get over how much stuff there is on Railsmith.
Oh, that's Lowell Smith's line. He's in Oregon or Washington State, and he has they were the Walthers in-scale streamlined passenger cars that he has that tooling now. And yeah, he's doing sets of in-scale passenger cars. And aren't those neat little collectibles?
I know. They're beautiful. Just fantastic stuff. And then we talked about Broadway, and we talked about the Owen 30 stuff from Blackstone. That stuff is fantastic. And how about this? From Dimensional Modeling Concepts it's a deck bridge. Is that what it is? A deck bridge? Some sort of...
yes. Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's expandable cement deck bridge that comes in pieces, and you can make it to any size you want.
Nice idea. Good modern one. Did you see I don't think I mentioned this in the roundup of news, but there's a Mopac corrugated side gondola. It's a resin kit in S scale.
Ooh, yes, I saw that. What do they call them? What was that company called? Don't tell me. Let me guess. Let me scroll up there. Man, there's a ton of stuff. Yes, here it is. Pre-size specialties.
Yeah, I got to look that up because I think I know somebody that would be a great model for them to put together and review.
Do you know of anybody in S scale?
I know one of the few people in S scale. As we would tease him to that effect. But yeah, don't you think that'd be great for Spoon to do a gondola kit?
And then you know where he should take the promo shot for the magazine is on Bob Frischella's beautiful S-scale railroad, Delaware and Hudson, beautiful S-scale railroad.
Oh boy, wow!
Yeah,
where's that at?
That is in Watertown. I believe it's Watertown, in just northeast of Boston, Massachusetts. It's like a suburb, maybe 25, 30 miles outside of downtown Boston.
Ah,
yeah. And Boston Bruins were the team that came up just one win short of winning the Stanley Cup this year. Our buddy Joe Cummings, he lives in Boston. ESU, man, look at this. A new Loke Sound 5 decoder finally came out. They're all excited about that. And their cab control unit. And there's a picture of Matt Herman. Matt's everywhere. Matt is a man.
Oh, yeah. Well, most definitely. I was just looking at the Train Life store pictures that Otto took. And yeah, that is neat that they built. It looks like a trestle. The trestle footings or pilings, whatever you call them, around underneath Pele's layout. And what is Adam Pinellas? That's Adam Pinellas there, is it not? In the blue T-shirt at the counter with sunglasses on. Is Amtrak just not running the week of the Salt Lake show? So, because, I thought he was a conductor on the CZ. So I'm thinking of these poor people wondering what roomette they're in while this guy's having a hobby week in Salt Lake. How did this work out?
Well, I know for a fact what happened there because Adam Pinellas was taking a good portion of that week off. What happened was the California Zephyr would run east as far as Grand Junction, Colorado, and then people would have to be offloaded and they would be bused to where Adam works at the west end, which is Winnemucca, Nevada. Uh-huh. So between Grand Junction and Winnemucca, which is the stretch that Adam works, they would just have to be bused from one location to the other, and then they'd pick up again, and away they'd go.
Oh, okay. Well, I wondered because he's all over this Salt Lake show, so it's like he obviously was not punching tickets that week.
no Adam, no Zephyr. That's the way it works.
Yeah. That's a trip we got to take. Shane had mentioned that.
Oh,
you ought to get in on that. You could take the train out of Chicago, and we could go up to Creston, Iowa, like due north of us a couple hours, and we all ought to take the CZ out and then run that stretch that Adam works. I think that'd be fun.
The rumbling, and did you also see with Adam leaning on the counter? That was George Bogatuk in the gray shirt there.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And Chris Brimley, I believe, has got his back to us, and he's wearing his AML shirt, so you got to give him credit for that. That's pretty neat how they got that, and then they got the Pele's. We highly recommend that anybody goes through Provo, stop in at Train Life. Man, let's see what else we got. There's a ton of stuff. This hobby is. I don't care what anybody says. This hobby is exploding.
Oh, it was a big show at Salt Lake. There were. I knew of a few of the announcements. There were some that I knew companies that would have an announcement, but I was waiting to see what it would end up being. And in general, there were still even more things that I had, was not aware of. So that's always great to have surprises like that. So lots of new stuff.
Maloko Trains announced their new HO trucks.
He's got 3 new trucks. If you go to malokotrains.com, you can see those. And there's 3 different truck styles that he's bringing out, I believe.
And Mind Mountain Models, we'll just finish up with Mind Mountain Models. It actually brought out a pretty cool kit. It's, it's like a plumbing supply. It's like the rack shelving that they'd have outside.
Yeah, their Palzer's plumbing supply is a huge kit. And then they also have the outdoor rack system where a truck would come up and they'd have the pipes and things, on the typical like shelving outdoor racks, and he's also selling that separately, which is a great idea because I'm sure there's a lot of guys that would like to have that as an add-on or something to add to an existing layout. And that's Mind Mount Models, and you can look them up. They're on Facebook and online too.
Yeah, and I originally I was giving Ron Kleiss a hard time for what the name Mind Mount, and it turns out that's the street he lives on is Mind Mount.
So I don't think we ever asked him that. Yeah, I didn't. I wondered where that came from. Huh.
And I think and there's a picture here of. Oh, and Adam Pinellas was making the suggestion that the 2021 AML picnic could actually be on the California Zephyr.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
Wouldn't that be cool? I think I'd be down for that.
That would be good. Yeah. Would Ostertag be able to bring his grill though?
We're thinking we could get an observation car and just with a platform out back and just, or have or either that or have Ostertag pace the train, and and then at particular stops where we have like an hour, we'll just whip the grill out, do up some burgers, and away we go again.
That's a plan too. I'll look into what I think they renamed Rio Grande's Wilson McCarthy business car. I think turned into Kansas. I don't know where it is now. Maybe we can figure out where it is and use it for the trip.
Yeah, Exact Rail / Train Life has a pretty big facility now.
That is neat. Yeah, I got to get out there and see that place.
Yeah, well, that would be. How far is it to drive from Plattsburgh, Missouri, from Kansas City to Utah, Salt Lake City?
I mean, it's a good 2 days. In a day you can get into the mountains. Like if you just took 70 across from Kansas City, I think you probably, with luck, get to Glenwood Springs on the west side. Not too bad. And then it'd be the better part of the next day to get across to Salt Lake.
Well, that'd be a pretty cool road trip.
But that would be a nice trip, yeah.
All right. All right, let's tell everybody what was like at the big Dressler train show.
Oh, that was a blast. Now, that was the third time I've been to their shop. That's Dave and Deb Zucker, and that's out in Deschler, Nebraska, which was on a Rock Island branch that went to Farbury, Nebraska, off their line that came in there at Belleville, Kansas, from Chicago via Lincoln. So like the Rocky Mountain Rocket would have gone southwest of them way back when, but Deschler was on the little branch that went up to Farbury. And I think it's Deb's, maybe dad or grandfather was like the station master in the town at one time. Naturally, the Rock Island is long gone. You can still see where it went through town, but it's been out of there forever. But they do, I think it's every other summer around the 4th of July, they've been doing a train show. And Deschler is a population of 747 people. And its nearest towns are like Hastings or Grand Island, I guess. And both those are about 45 minutes to an hour away. So it's really out in the middle of nowhere. I took my dad with me. He came over from Illinois the day before, and then we went up. Well, actually, that dad came over on a Friday, and Shane Mason piloted us around in his new GMC Terrain on Saturday to see all the hobby shops and do some train watching in Kansas City. And then Dad and I went up to Deschler, Nebraska on Sunday and went the town, even though it's a really small town, they've got a little community center on the south end of town that the Zuckers get for their show. And there were maybe I guess there was about 3 modular layouts set up. Manufacturers were there like Athearn, Intermountain, Scale Trains, Soundtracks. I mean, there were a number of people showing, new products off. Rapido was there with the first samples of their new ski train cars for the late 80s Rio Grande ski train. And then, of course, the store is amazing to go through. I don't know if it was like a grocery store or a hardware store at one time, but imagine like a small town store that's basically floor to ceiling model trains. I mean, I think one of their slogans is "Come in and say wow or be wowed." And I had talked about it a number of times to my dad, and he'd heard the thing, seen the stuff online about it, but thought, it's got to be a lot of talk. I've been to, he'd been to Caboose, he's been to like Desplaines, Lombard. He knows a lot of the big shops, so it's like, I'm sure it can't be that good. It's a town of 750 people. That there's no way. And he when we got over to the town, the little community center where the layouts and the manufacturers were, we ran into Dave and Deb, and Dad just shook Dave's hand and said, that is an amazing hobby shop. That's incredible. And it really is. We shopped a little bit there at first, went to the community center, and then came back to the hobby shop, and we ran into our buddy Blaine Hadfield and talked to him forever. And he was there with Arrowhead Models and
Right.
was doing a presentation on things. It's just, it's really incredible. And it's one of those you think, really, I'm going to drive out to the middle of Nebraska. And it truly is. When you think interstates, you've got I-80 through Nebraska and then I-70 through Kansas. So you're like, well, how far off the interstate is it? It's like, well, it's about dead in between 80 and 70, that it's just over the Kansas border, more or less, in Nebraska.
Right.
So yeah, it's 2-lane blacktops to get there, and is not near any place big. But boy, it is something that if you're a model train person, and if you're making a vacation or whatever, it's a place you got to go to. And best of all, they've always had a website that could have been better. They've got a new website up. And so if you Google Spring Creek Model Trains, you'll see their website has more live inventory and pricing information than it had before. And of course, Dave and Deb go to every show, around the Midwest, whether it's, Dallas to St. Louis to Denver. I mean, they're all over the place. They travel so much. It's just, I saw them last year about 3 weekends in a row between like Kansas City, St. Louis, and someplace else. And that third weekend, I said, wow, I'm tired of running around, and I know you guys do this all the time. And Deb just looked at me and said, "Wimp."
Yeah.
I said, "Boy, I couldn't do it." I said, that would really be something.
They are.
They're great folks, and they've really just established such an amazing business.
Yeah, I know. It's like, and that trailer, and they set that show up, and then they pull it down, and they just love the whole thing about it. And they say, I see they have their own rolling stock now on their website and everything.
Yeah, they've had some exclusive runs done of like hopper cars and other things, and then I think they've also brought in some like machinery, like big heavy machinery equipment, little HO plastic models of those for like inside a big, warehouse or something. So there's some interesting pieces too that you won't find other places. But yeah, Spring Creek Model Trains is definitely worth the detour if you're going east-west on I-80 or I-70. It's a bit of a trip, and if you've got your wife or significant other that's not a train person, they may begin to question your sanity when you've pulled off for what seems like this tourist roadside attraction that's taking forever to get to. But it is well worth the trip.
Well, and I'm sure and I wouldn't doubt for a second that you don't know that just a mere 28 miles from Deschler, Nebraska, is Strang, Nebraska.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wonder if there's any relation.
Do
you think they named the town after you? I mean,
no. I think they
from the podcast, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, that would be my second guess. Yeah, all you got to do is head east on I believe it's 31. Let me just you head east on 136, and when you get to Hebron, you take a left on 81 and just head up 81, and before you know it, you'll be in downtown Strang, Nebraska.
See, now that's worth the trip right there. Just so I can see you standing now, pointing at the Strang, Nebraska sign.
Yeah,
that's a picture that needs to be taken. So there you go.
Exactly. And if you get tired of going to Strang, Nebraska, you can always go to Strang, Oklahoma.
Is there Strang, Oklahoma too?
Yeah, but that's 390 miles.
If I get up your way sometime, the place I got to go, and it's not far from, I don't think it's far from Toronto, Jerseyville, Ontario. I think it's Ontario.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in Jerseyville, Illinois.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so that's the only other Jerseyville that I'm familiar with, and it was on the Toronto, Hamilton, and Buffalo TH&B.
Yep. Let's see. Let me look for the map. I'll find it for you. But that's not quite the same as the town being named after your surname.
No, that's true. I got a whole county after me though in the Chicago area, Cook County. So
yeah, that's true. And some rather nefarious characters.
See, how about that?
Yeah. Jerseyville is west of Hamilton, Ontario. Not terribly far from Toronto. It's probably an hour and a half from Toronto.
Oh.
So I'd be thrilled to take you there if you ever. As a matter of fact, I'm not doing anything this weekend. If you want to come up,
I still got to get a passport. I was telling
Yeah.
I was telling young Mason that too, because he was saying that. And I said, "Well, do you have a passport?" He goes, "Nope." I said, "Well, neither do I." I said, "I think we got to knock that out first before we can go."
Yeah,
They're not just going to let us come rolling in, even in the caddy.
No, not even in the caddy. Even if I'm there to greet you. And that's Boston Joe says that too. He says, I got to get a because I keep threatening to take him to a Leaf game, and he says, yeah, but I got to get a passport, and it's like, come on, pitter patter, got to get.
Well, it seems silly to me. I don't know. I mean, we didn't used to have to. That whole, I mean, the U.S. Canada thing. I don't know why we now are doing that, but anyway.
I don't even know why there's a border, to be honest with you.
Exactly. It's like I don't think that. I mean, when did that start? Because you travel a lot. When did you have to start having a passport to go back and forth?
Let me think. I think I have a real honest. I would say mid-90s.
Really, that long ago? Okay. Well,
I don't think it was after 9/11. I think it was before 9/11, but I can't say for sure. But it's certainly been 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, you used to be able to just go over with your driver's license.
Right. Yeah. No big deal. So yeah, it is. But no.
And I know a lot of my American friends would have a lot harder time getting back into the United States than they had getting out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, how about that?
And then they were going to come up with these super duper driver's licenses that you would just show, and it would work on the computer. But that died a short death.
Oh.
And now what I have is what's called a Nexus card, and it's kind of like a pass that gets you back and forth because I'm a frequent traveler.
Oh.
Although you have to be interviewed, and I've been interviewed twice, and each time the guy's kind of looking at me with a cocked eyebrow going, seriously? The first time, because if you agree to have a Nexus card, you have to be fingerprinted, and then now you're on file with the FBI and all this, and I'm kind of like, well, I haven't done anything that bad. So, but I have a lot of Canadian friends that are like, oh, I don't want to be on the FBI files, and I'm kind of like, well, I'm probably already am, so don't worry about it.
Oh, I love to listen. I've been meaning to mention this when we were talking about Canada, and I can't remember which. It's not George Norrie, the usual host of the Coast to Coast AM, the overnight talk show. That talks about UFOs and all that kind of fun stuff. That's one of his fill-in weekend hosts, and he always, it's either in his greeting or something else where he says, and to like the aliens out there, remember, eat the Canadians first, they taste better. And I always get a laugh when I hear that, and I always think, I got to remember to tell Lionel that.
Yeah, if anybody ever says our podcast is as good as Coast to Coast, I'll be happy.
Oh man, that's a great show.
That is great listening. I don't care what you say. I can listen to that any night driving through the night. Listening.
Oh my goodness! And and it needs to be. I mean, I'm a Coast. They call it a Coast Insider, and you can listen to them off the internet anytime. And I listen to it while I'm working during the day. But that show really is made for that like midnight and later, while you're driving somewhere out in the middle of no place.
Yeah.
Talking about, Bigfoot or aliens or whatever. You need the atmosphere of being, down an old highway on a summer night full of stars.
Yes.
That's the atmosphere for Coast to Coast.
Yeah. You're feeling pretty brave. And then about an hour into Coast to Coast, you're thinking, I'm out here pretty much by myself.
Right. What is this about alien abductions? And boy, I had to go to the bathroom, but I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to stop. Yeah.
Yeah. What I need is the essential guide to alien abduction survival or something like that.
Oh, there you go.
And a waffle maker. If you got your waffle maker, you're good to go. Look at that. An hour and 15 minutes. Is there anything else we need to cover?
I think that's it. But how about that? There's an update on all the great stuff out of Salt Lake. And then we've got to get together again after the young gun and I do the St. Louis RPM.
So what did you think of our weekend, our barbecue?
Oh, the barbecue was just fantastic. The food was tremendous. Getting to see everybody is so much fun. because we message back and forth and everything and text each other and talk all the time. But it's a great day to be there. And I got to say, I was just blown away by getting to meet, was it Nick from Switzerland?
Oh my goodness gracious,
Oh,
Nick Carlson, you came all the way from Sweden.
and then when he gave you that box and said, "I've been listening to the podcast. I know the one thing you want more than anything." And when you opened that box and it was the Faller liquid manure pit, I was just over the moon.
Yeah,
That made the whole weekend for me. I thought that was fantastic.
I didn't know what it was he was going to give me. And I'm thinking, okay, like I'm gonna try to act like I appreciate it and all this stuff. And then as I'm starting to open it, I start thinking to myself, is this a liquid manure pit? And I'm thinking, and I'm actually going, please be a liquid manure pit, please be a liquid. And that's what it was. It was so cool, Nick, for you to do that.
That was awesome. And then he had that great Maple Leafs gear too.
Then he gave me a bunch of Maple Leaf gear, and oh man, and he seemed to have a great time.
It was a fantastic weekend. We didn't even get to do the Friday stuff with y'all, the loop and riding with the Metra and that stuff.
Yeah, we should do that again next year so you guys can come because everybody had a blast doing that.
But once again, another tremendous AML barbecue.
Yeah, so we met on Thursday night. We all went over to the old CB&Q. There was right beside in Aurora, Illinois, right beside the Holiday Inn Express, is Two Brothers Restaurant in the and it's in an old CB&Q roundhouse, and that was fabulous. So we did that Thursday night. Friday we rode the Metra into Chicago. Then we rode a bus. We had our own bus that we took, and we went to Superdog, which had great milkshakes, even though Kevin Marks kept dipping his finger into mine.
Reportedly.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. And then Tracy Driscoll Boyd was pointed out that if I got on one of her flights, I would be a person of size.
She was a lot of fun to meet too. I had not met her before. Yeah, but yeah, you got stung there too. That apparently, what is it that you got to buy 2 seats on a plane was the pitch.
Yeah, and then before I even got that out, she said, "Oh, you just have to tell them you're a person of size."
Right. I mean, I think you really, I was not around there to defend you, and I think that these guys really took advantage of you on Friday between the milkshake incident. I mean, I felt terrible for you. Friday night at dinner, I could tell that you truly you had a rough day. You had a very rough day. Yeah.
And so she's a flight attendant on Southwest Airlines. Lots of fun. And then after Superdog, we went to Displains Hobbies. And I bought a copy of Railfan and Railroad. I was really hoping it was one of the months that was entitled Railroad and Railfan, but I couldn't see any one of those. And then there was copies of Model Railroad News. They have everything in Displains Hobbies in Displains, Illinois.
It's a great shop. Now, Shane and I went to Lombard in Lombard, Illinois, Lombard Hobbies. But yeah, I wish we'd had a little additional time so we could also visited up at Displains. So, but always something for the next trip.
And then after that, we went to Stephen Hayworth's Railroad, and what he's done is he's modeled the Rio Grande. Is it Rio Grande Southern? Right.
Rio Grande Southern, yeah.
Yeah, and he's modeled it as if it was standard gauge because he said, and a great explanation. He said, had Blackstone come out with their, HON 30 stuff, he would have done it then, but there was really nothing when he started the layout, and he's done a beautiful job on his layout. And what he's done, which is really cool, which I highly recommend for a lot of people, is he got in the basic scenery and then he just, kind of covered it, whatever isn't finished with trees or whatever, he's, covered it with ground foam. So the whole layout looks like a finished layout.
You had pictures, he has a neat pull-out section.
Oh, yeah.
What to get to, like his electric box in the basement or something, and it's amazing as he starts to lift it out, you don't see it coming, and then also it's like, oh wow, look at that. There was a very slight, faint indication if you were standing right in front of the scenery. You could see that there was just a slight crack in the scenery.
So then one of us, probably Spoon, because he was always making trouble. We asked Stephen, "What's this?" And then he pulled it out, and it was access to his fuse panel for the house.
Wow.
And it was on rollers. So it's like a drawer. And
Isn't that a neat idea?
it was
that
great.
that kind of stuff, you can marvel at someone's model railroad, but it's like when we were at Miles Hale's and he has that, how he can basically hide the door to the room. That one section comes across the doorway and suddenly you're in a model railroad room with no door, that it hides that what's usually you can't put anything across the doorway. But that kind of stuff I always find ingenious and neat that model railroaders will do.
Model railroaders do all kinds of cool stuff. His blog is RGSRR, Rio Grande Southern Railroad .blogspot.com. You go there, you'll find all kinds of cool stuff. And no, Stephen, I'm not going to put this link on the page, not because I don't want to, but it's because I'm lazy, and when this comes out, I will have forgotten to. But yeah, Stephen is everybody that came to the picnic. Great people, great personalities. Everybody mingled really well. Everybody got along really well. Stephen was a huge help to us on Friday because he met us at Union Station and was our guide through Chicago. And then on Saturday with the picnic, we had 25 or 30 people. And of course, there's some, first off, let me mention again, if I haven't mentioned it before, which I have many times. If it had not been for everybody pitched in. Absolutely everybody pitched in. Young Jordan, he would went to the store. Boston Joe, everybody helped. And it's Patrick Lavallee, everybody helped in any way they could. But Kevin Marks and Mike Ostertag, those two guys worked absolutely tirelessly to make sure the barbecue was a huge success. And I know Mike Ostertag won't argue with me that Kevin Marks was selfless in the amount of work he put into making the whole weekend a fun experience for everybody.
Oh, and I mean the food those guys put together for us was just spectacular. The brats, the hot dogs, the hamburgers, and poor Mike Ostertag. And he kept he'd come up to me and he goes, "What's your problem?" Because we're in those green shirts and I got no sweat marks on me. And it's like, I have no idea. Standing out here in 100-degree weather, I should basically have a map of Africa or South America, drawn in sweat on my shirt. So it's like, I have no idea. And he's like, "This is the third shirt I've gone through today." I said, "Yeah, I should be right there with you." I said, "I don't know." But, he was standing over that barbecue grill in the 100-degree weather. So I think that contributed to it. But yeah, there was a lot of sweat equity put forth that day by Mr. Ostertag to make sure we had a fantastic meal.
I don't think I've ever experienced anybody that sweat as much as he did in front of a barbecue. Granted, but we got to keep in mind that was like by the time he got around to it, it was like easily 90 degrees with a humidex of 132 or something.
It was. And yeah, I think by afternoon, I caught him at least twice in the cab of his truck running the air conditioner. That he and Shane were both taking a break from the heat. So yeah.
And why was Shane wearing blue jeans all day?
Well, he had blue jeans on and he was not wearing the correct shirt.
No,
that he had his gray Modeler's Life shirt on, but he was smart there because I think that color kept him cooler. But yeah.
And then of course, the last thing we'll mention was the fact I was disappointed that he was late. I thought that was a bit, but you got to expect that from the big stars. Peter Borchert came and had a meet and greet session, and he was quite friendly with the fans, but he showed up in his own sweet time.
Well, but that's if you're a superstar of that caliber, and he was coming over from the UK for this event, so you don't know, Lionel. I mean, the Concorde might have been delayed, getting into Dulles or whatever. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah. He had the last flight on the Concorde.
Right.
Look at that. An hour. Now we're going to stop because we killed an hour and 25 minutes. We covered a variety of subjects. And I think it went well because it's just the two of us. So I don't think we ever need anybody else.
I wouldn't say that.
No, I wouldn't say that. All right. So if you want to send us an email, You can send us an email at
A modeler's life at gmail.com, and that's modeler's life with one L like, oh, I don't have anything. One L like everything I come up with has two L's.
one L like El Dorado,
Ah, there you go.
not two L's like
Lionel.
Cadillac.
There you go.
El Dorado, Cadillac El Dorado. Modeler's Life at gmail.com. That's one L like El Dorado, not two L's like Cadillac. That's my favorite. And we got a website, modelerslife.com. Go there and find out all kinds of stuff and links and all that kind of stuff. We should actually put a permanent link up there to Model Railroad News because you're such an integral part of the podcast and we have such a great relationship with White River Productions.
There you go.
And let's see what else. Oh, yeah. And finally, are you ready?
Yes.
We'll see if you're ready. Remember, Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10. I don't think you're ready.
I was trying to think of something good because I didn't want to say doctor.
The problem is you got to say something.
I know. Okay, Modeler's Life has been rated marginally adequate.
Don't say it. We'll do it again. We want everybody.
The full effect.
Yeah, we want little Mike Wachowski wherever he is right now. We want him to enjoy as we step away from the microphones.
Okay.
All right. Please remember that a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
Coca-Cola Brixers. Do you know what that is?
No, what is that?
I believe it's Brixing. When I worked at AMC Theaters, you had to check your Coca-Cola to make sure that it was properly done right. And there's a little thing you put on the soda fountain dispenser. You take off the nozzle, you put this on, you test it, and it's got marks for the carbonated water and marks for the cola syrup. And you give a shot into this glass and it tells you this is how much syrup you're doing to the carbonated water, and it's called Brixing for some reason. And it's a check to make sure you're not too watered down or too strong so that your Coca-Cola is authentic. So that's Cola Brixing, if I remember that term right. So there are 6 out of 10 Coca-Cola Brixers. And I assume it's done for Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, and other things too.
Yeah, but you wouldn't think Pepsi would use a Coca-Cola Brixer.
Well, probably not. And ours was it was a little plastic thing with marks on it to show. And the thing it split basically the carbonated water from the syrup, shot it into 2 different dispensers. And as they filled up, they should hit the 2 marks to let you know that you're in the right mix. But how about that? And then you could adjust it accordingly if it was not right.
Okay. Well,
there you go. There's a little kicker bit of info.
Yeah, but the problem is we've kind of killed the whole thing because we kept talking, and now
I know. Well, we have so much information to impart.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it again and do something else?
Yeah, we'll do it again and only pick something, and then
that I don't have to explain.
Yeah, you don't have to explain, like cheesies or something. I don't know.
Cheesies.
I don't know. Cheesy baggers. Cheese ball testers.
There you go.
Whatever you want.
Okay.
The key is because it's like Johnny Carson's golf swing. Like he was an avid golfer.
Yeah.
In the 60s and 70s, and then he gave up the game, but he still did the golf swing on his show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
After the monologue and before the commercial, it was the golf swing. And he still didn't play golf. So it's the same thing with this. Regardless of whether the subject is interesting, we have to stop after whatever is said.
Ah, okay.
It's because we're professional. I bet you on Coast to Coast Radio they'd stop. See?
Well, they might. Yeah.
See, now
we don't have to take time for the hand crank radio commercial, though. See, we got that extra time.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got a great one, too, and I'm not getting to do it. Write this down. You got to go remember twice. So you remember, and then you go, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10. And then you pause, and then I will say.
Okay.
Okay.
Remember, remember, A Modeler's Life has been rated marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
extraterrestrials.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of A Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late-night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.